hear myself through my headphones. Yes, man. Like, I feel real good about this right now.
Pay attention, because you are now listening to Permission to Speak Freely.
Listeners, you might have just heard us say something about DOD. We know it's DOW. I'm going to change the disclaimer really, really soon. And I'm also, we got a few announcements that we need to make. Some of them are pretty sad announcements, and some of them are pretty good announcements. We're going to bring a couple segments back and stuff like that, but waiting for Damon to get back so we could talk about that. Real quick, so today is September 11th, so we coming off September 9th and September 10th, and just current event-wise, it's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to get too much into a lot of that stuff because we are joined by Captain Lacey Vestal, who we're going to get into a whole bunch with. But I do want to say this. For America, I always pray for peace, understanding, grace for ignorance, and openness to information. Those are always my prayers. And then I don't know if any of y'all got anything on that before we move forward.
No, absolutely. You're spot on, bro. I mean, it's a lot going on in the world right now, but yeah, pray for peace.
Okay. Well, it is September 11th, so we can't, I don't feel like we could do anything without talking about September 11th. I've shared my September 11th story on here more than I, could remember. So I want to start off with Captain Vestal. What's your September? I know you were in the academy at that time, but what's your September 11th story?
Yeah, I was at the academy. We had just started sophomore year. So yeah, I kind of remember it from a real big picture perspective. And then it also, got real personal real quick. Obviously being at the academy, we immediately went on lockdown. I remember standing, 24/7 watches and just being on a completely different heightened level of security. But one of the great programs they have at Annapolis is the Sponsor Family Program. And so you get paired up with a family out in town. And I was blessed and lucky enough to have landed with two retired 06s. And she was still active duty, Captain MJ Sweeney, at the time working in the Pentagon. So there was a good chunk of time there where we didn't know. Right, we didn't know if she was one of the lucky ones or not. There was probably a whole day or so where there was just no communications whatsoever, and so the extended sponsor family was just really in a time of prayer, of shock, of hope. But thankfully, everything turned out great. She was safe. She was blessed. She was one of the lucky ones. But it really brought that day and what had happened very, very close to home real quick.
Yeah, that sponsor family thing. I think it's like a hidden gem. You gotta be around people to know, at the academy to really know what that is. My captain was a sponsor to one of the midshipmen when I was stationed there, so I got to see it in real time. It's really good mentorship and stuff like that.
It is a phenomenal program, and I'm still. I feel like they're very much still my second parents. Still, I'm in great communication with them. See them often. I just think the world of them. So yeah, super super fantastic program.
Yeah. What was the aftermath of 9/11 at the academy?
I think that's really when, and if I think back, I feel like that was a really poignant moment in that a lot changed, right? A lot of people stood up and raised their right hand and said, hey, because of this event, I want to serve, right? So we started to enter a whole new era of military service. But those of us who were serving at the time, we had already done that. We already stepped up and stepped in. And I think it just made everybody feel like we were really doubling down and fighting for something, and as a team, as a unit, and as a country.
Yeah, 9/11. That's one of those days where just as an American, if you were alive at that time, no matter how old you were, it's some connective tissue to New York, to what happened to every American that we lost that day. I was in high school at the time, super concerned about some secular stuff. But Kobe, what about you? You were in the military, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I was at my first duty station, actually coming up on the end of that tour, and actually was headed to DC. I was at the in Atsugi, Japan, at the squadron out there, and I as a yeoman and as administrator, I found out what it was to be on OPHO. Because immediately after that happened, like Lacey said, people were in lockdown. We were in lockdown, but not only that, it stop me from transferring, right? So, we were on station until it was time to go. And then I think later on that year, I got over, so probably about 2 months later, November, December timeframe, I reported to DC and it was still in shambles, man. So, yeah.
Yeah, did the morale feel different pre and post?
For us, I mean, with us being at a squadron, people were ready to go. They were ready to go do something, especially with us being at tip of the spear, forward deployed, part of CAG 5, people were ready to get underway and do things, but, we had just come back from a deployment. So, obviously we couldn't go anywhere as a crew, but, they did send sailors out to help with those that did deploy. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, what about you, Aaron? You were in too, right? You've been in for a little bit, right?
A little bit. I got jokes. Yeah, like Kobe, first duty station, Enterprise, CVN 65. We were wrapping up a med cruise. Had a lot of port visits. Supposed to go to Brazil. We did an unwrap. We got done, and I thought it was a movie playing in the berthing, and it's not a movie. So you could feel the ship just turn around. And then we got extended, did some of the first strikes. Then we came back home about just shy of a month later. And that return to home port, it just hit me. Then I'm from New York, so, not being able to hear from family during that time. And then it made everything real. Kind of like what Lacey said, like, I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm not taking stuff serious when that was my, like, this is real. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you were also able to notice the shift, right? Like from before to,
I mean, so like, we pulled in, I was in the first like Liberty period, leave period. And I was hopped in the car when I was in Virginia, driving to New York, and I just still in my blues. And the way that people just looked at your uniform at that time. I mean, there was one lady, she was like, you remind me of my son. And the way she looked at me, it just kind of hit me. I was like, so it really was a reframing of the power of the uniform and honoring your oath and what it means to serve. So.
Yeah, may we never forget, right? May we never. I went to a ceremony today. Some chief selects put it on at the Navy Yard, and shout out to my man Julio, who he hosted. He's from New York too. He hosted, and I actually stumbled upon it. And just may we never forget every lesson that we learned and every life that we lost, and everything that we gained, as well from that day. Right? It's no good way to transition from that. So I want to get into it though. Let's talk to Captain Lacey M. Vestal about every single thing. I think we need to start off. This is how I'm going to start off, right? I'm going to do this. And that's why I want to do this because, I mean, and this is my words, these not yours, but I feel like you've just been racking up wins since November of last year, right? So November, I think it was November last year, you hit 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you hit 20 November last year. Right after that, you made 06. Yeah. Successful chain of command. The Arnold happened. Your trainer won that, right? I'm having a hard time keeping up with all the bodybuilding, like medals and trophies. There's so many of them. We'll talk about that. The NPC, Natural Battle of the Titans, making it happen and, doing things there. And then you bought, I mean, the thing that I'm super happy about is you brought PT back to your command. We go.
Hey, gotta get it.
It was the first thing, like day one, week one, change one.
My dude in the back, right? And he had like the Blake twice if you okay look. Like, hey, Captain brought PT back, man. How y'all feel? And honestly, we need more of that. Like programs like that, we need more of like the highest level of leadership at the command, championing it, getting behind it, being active in it, and making sure that the other leadership at the command are active. So it was good to see you doing that. That Kobe shared that with me. I was like, okay, Captain,
about to get me triggered, man.
Yeah, bro. And I know what it means when I see it.
In a good way.
Yeah. I know what it means. It looked like it's an announcement to the naked eye. I know what it means, but I say, yeah, Captain came and made some changes quick. Let's get it done. So I want to go back real quick, and guys, y'all jump in whenever, man. We just gonna have a really good conversation. But I want to start in Wyoming, PA?
Yeah,
Right?
yes. Very small town in northeastern Pennsylvania, about 2 hours north of Philly. But not a military town, right? I had no prior family service, military. And quite honestly, going through high school and knowing that I was looking for something a little bit more than, a little bit more unique to the typical college experience. I mean, I exhausted the resources of my high school guidance counselors. They didn't know about service academies, right? I mean, we're fairly geographically close to West Point.
Yeah.
But that just wasn't something that kids in my area did. So I was, fortunate enough to, always an athlete growing up. I was on swim team. And one of my buddies was, he was a year ahead of me, and he was interested in Annapolis. And he and I got to talking. He shared, what he knew, what he learned, and encouraged me to go to Annapolis the summer after my junior year of high school, to check out the summer seminar program, which Dominic, you may be familiar with, in your time there. But they take high school juniors, they run year round over the summer. They treat you like plebes for a couple days. And for whatever reason, I guess folks are really excited about going to school there. Yeah. And the bug just bit. I mean, Annapolis is a beautiful campus, so much history, so much tradition. It's a leadership laboratory. But once I visited, I was hooked. I knew that was the school for me. It took me an additional try. I did not get in the first year that I applied. Yeah, I actually decided to go ahead and do they offered me the foundation program. So I did a prep school year before I was able to go. So graduated high school in 99, but ended up graduating from the academy in 2004. So
yeah, because you were 23 when you graduated. So okay, so that makes up that. Yeah. So this is what I do know about Wyoming, right? I'm from Philly, right? So it's a 2-hour difference, but it's a small town, Susquehanna River kind of in the area. It's a rich Revolutionary War history, right? So no base there, but rich, some coal mining. So this is like the textbook small town. It's like Derry from the It movie. Like this is the textbook of what a small town is. I think it's like 300, like the population is like 3,000 right now.
Yeah. Right? And so the closest big town is Scranton, right? Which is the show they based The Office around. They're joking on that as being a small town, right? So that's that's the scene a little bit. So yeah.
So did you get out of so before going to the Naval Academy in Annapolis, did you get out of Wyoming a lot, or was that one of your first times getting out of Wyoming?
Oh, definitely. First time out of there, we didn't, my family, we just didn't travel very much. Again, I think that was very, it was similar to most folks in that area. You just kind of, you went to school, you worked, you did all those things. Hadn't really traveled abroad, hadn't even seen much of the US. So getting out to Annapolis was it was a completely new chapter for me on a lot of levels.
Mm-hmm. And it was you, mom, dad, and your younger sister, 2 years younger than you?
Yeah, younger sister. Yeah.
Okay. And how was leaving, when you did leave to go to the academy and you made that choice, how did the family respond to it?
They were ultimately supportive. I think, again, not having a lot of context for what a service academy was all about. I think there was a little bit of, my dad's super proud, right? He got it. He's super supportive. I think, my mom naturally was probably a little bit nervous about sending her first daughter off to at that time, I don't think the academy was even 15% women, mostly male military institution. But ultimately supportive. Did they completely understand my why? Probably not. And maybe they don't now still. And that's okay. I did it for me. Right. And again, it was a super formative time in my young adult life.
Yeah. So you swam in high school, right? You did the 50-meter sprint, 100-meter back, and 100-meter fly, right?
Oh, you do your homework. You do your
homework. Yeah, for sure.
That boy been in the books.
But and then we got to school. So it's this crazy connection with you and water, right? You go from swimming to you living by the school kill. You go from swimming, then you go to the, go to the Naval Academy and you do rowing. Mm-hmm. And so, what do you love most just about the water?
Just the peace and the solitude. You're so right. That has always been a constant in my life. Mm-hmm. and for me, I'm very much an introvert, right? My battery recharges in solitude and in quiet, and the water gives me that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So rowing at the academy, what like teamwork or leadership lessons did you learn there?
Simply showing up when you don't feel like it, right? I mean, you've got a million other demands on your time when you're going through Annapolis, right? And so to get up even earlier when it's dark and it's cold and it's rainy, and to get out there and just grind first thing in the morning before classes. I mean, that's, again, we're talking about this show being a labor of love for you. I mean, it was a labor of love, right? But you realize the goodness that comes out the other side, and the deep, deep bonds that you form with your teammates, and just how much better and stronger of a person it makes you, both mentally and physically.
Is Wyoming one of those towns that is something to miss? Do you miss anything about Wyoming? I'm from Philly, right? And it's things to miss, right? I mean, a lot of stuff like the brotherly. It's like brotherly love, but like everybody got an attitude.
I don't know about brotherly love in Philly, man.
It's definitely brotherly love, but it don't look like Louisiana love. It's Philly love. So you order a sandwich, they're going to cuss you out at the sandwich shop. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you go get your sandwich. So for Wyoming, is it anything that you like, man, I can only get this from Wyoming?
One, I think it's the small town vibe, right? You can't find that a lot of places anymore. And then there's something it is a really beautiful part of the country, kind of nestled there in the Pocono Mountains, and especially in the spring and in the fall. I'm not one of those people who say, I need all 4 seasons. I'm happy to be a beach girl. But there is something really nice and comforting, going back there in the fall when the colors are changing. And again, just, everybody knows everybody. It's the small town feels for sure. Yeah.
So is it a culture shock? Speaking on that, we got a break from the everybody knows everybody thing. Have y'all seen that that documentary on Netflix? What is it? The catfish one? None of y'all saw that?
Mm-hmm.
No,
I urge y'all at some point go watch this catfish doc. It's a small town. Everybody knows everybody. It's a high school girl, and she's getting harassed via text message. Her and her boyfriend for over like a year and a half. But the shocker is who's doing it. The person that's doing it.
Okay.
All right. So back y'all gotta watch that one though. I'm sure some of the listeners watched it. So now coming from Wyoming, small town, rich kind of coal mining and rich Revolutionary War history. What was it like living in Annapolis that first year, coming to Annapolis at 19? Was it a culture shock there, or did you like just instantly connect and fall in love with that atmosphere?
With the campus for sure, because quite honestly, as a plebe there, you don't get to spend too much time out in town, right? Or doing anything normal. But I mean, again, Annapolis is also a beautiful historic town and right on the water. So the little time that I did get to spend, on my own there was, not a culture shock per se, but it felt like a great fit for me. It made sense. And the more time, I spent there and was able to really enjoy the city and the local area. And even now when I go back for class reunions, I think I love it even more than I did back then.
Yeah. Was it challenging academically?
Yes. Yeah. Again, growing up in a small town, kind of, big fish in a little pond, top of my class, right? I worked my butt off at the academy to be a B, B or a C student. So It was definitely challenging academically. And that's, we're talking again before we got on, I was a poli-sci major. I mean, most of the degrees there are, engineering related, right? Technical, more technical degrees. But everybody graduates with a bachelor's of science. So even my political science degree was a BS. So it was definitely academically and physically challenging. Yeah. But that's what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, I mean, you amongst the minority in that group anyway at the time. Well, I'm assuming it's over 70% men at the school at that time, maybe even 80%. I'm not sure. I'm just assuming.
Yeah, I think if I remember back correctly, we weren't quite at 15% female yet. So about 85% male. Mm-hmm.
So you lead the academy, and is your first command of Paul Hamilton? Is that your first ship?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that where Kobe kind of comes into the story?
Oh, no. I did not meet this guy much later.
You DC. So you DC.
Yeah.
Okay,
so we'll get to that.
right, so you did a few things on the Paul Hamilton. You
I did.
Aswo, Como, and Nav.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what's up.
That's
Right, and I'm sure-
It's a trifecta.
Yes.
Yeah. And as an OS, well, as a former OS, I know, Aaron, you got some connection with a couple of these, right?
Yeah, when I saw she was Aswell, like, her street cred went up with me. That's not an easy qual and position to have.
It's not.
And then you
Yeah.
nav. I'm like, okay, yeah, you was in the trenches.
Yes.
Yeah. And my question is, so I had this idea to come up with this game, and I told Aaron about the game, but I just ain't have enough time to develop it. It was going to be called Sets, Reps, and Spots, right? So this is what we were going to do. We were going to point out like moments in your career that would have been a set, right? So that it would have been a foundational moment, right? A set. And then reps would have been like a grinder moment, like just a repetition. And then a spot would have been a mentorship moment, or a time that you were mentored by somebody else. And one of the times that I guess it would be, I don't know if it would be a set, or rep, or spot, but your first mid-watch alone, qualified by yourself. How was that?
Terrifying. Right.
Uh-huh.
But what a phenomenal way to set the scene for the rest of your Navy career. Because when do you ever go into a new job or a new qual feeling qualified, right? You never do. And nothing kind of, serves it up to you just like that. That first mid-watch on your own, it's dark. You've got it. It's on you. Super scary, but also super, super empowering too, right?
Yeah. So that would have been a set, a foundational moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. I wish I could have got that game done, man.
I think it's going to have life, man. You're going to have it.
It is. We go weave it. Yeah, we go weave it in, man. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to make it happen, man. So is it on, I'm assuming it's on, what you got here?
No, I'm just saying, I don't think in the officer community, in my opinion, SWOs don't get all the respect that's earned or deserved to them. And I think a lot of people are SWOs who start and cut their teeth as SWOs. And then if they decide to pivot to another career path, as Lacey did, like, you can't rattle them. If they're able to cut their teeth as SWO and qualify and drive a ship and run division and, have these surly chiefs, mentoring them, you could do whatever you want after that. So I just think that SWOs, SWO life is real. So.
Yes, it's a good foundation.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I mean, it's the one community that gets you right out to the fleet. I mean, I literally took 30 days of leave we got after Annapolis, right? And then headed right out to my ship, which was underway, like ready, set, go,
Right.
Yeah.
Right to the fleet, active, working, getting it in. And was that your only SWO tour?
Yeah, so I actually did both of my Divo tours, which are 18 months at a time. I did both of them back to back on Paul Hamilton. So I did the Aswo, the Como job, and then my captain at the time asked me if I'd consider sticking around and fleeting up to Navigator, which I said yes to. To me, that was such a sweet spot because again, I'm not a fake it until you make it kind of gal. Like I like to get in there, to know my job, to know the crew, to know who I'm dealing with. It's so much easier for me to be the leader, to be the expert when I feel like, I know what's up. So that was a really comfortable fleet up experience for me.
As a nav, were you I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask her, like, you had the quartermasters and you had the STGs. Who's the rowdier bunch?
I don't know if rowdy is a word I would use to describe either one of those. But they were all unique in their own ways, and to include the ITs, right? So I got all the STGs, the ITs, the QMs, and then I was also, NAV admin, right? So I did have all the yeomen, the PSs, exactly. The medical team fell under admin as well. So it was a really, it wasn't considered a department, but it essentially was. It was probably about 30 folks.
Mm-hmm. So at what point did you decide HR was your lane?
That was 2009. I did the lat transfer. So I had completed my 3 years on board Paul Hamilton, my time at sea, and then transitioned to shore duty. I was at Tactical Training Group Pacific out in San Diego, working fleet synthetic training. So kind of helping prepare the strike groups do the virtual training before they would go out to sea. And I was really ready to get out. I was going to hit my 5 years, my minimum service requirement there in San Diego. And, not that I didn't enjoy what I was doing, but I just thought perhaps there was more on the outside. So I started to kind of take a look at those options. And in the interim, I happened to get a cold call from the HR detailer, which again, I mean, that community had only been in existence for a couple of years at that point. So I knew nothing about HR, but he said, "Hey, what do you think about maybe doing the lat transfer?" And so and I don't know if you can hear colors in the back.
I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, we just moved into this house on base today.
I almost came to attention real quick.
America, let's do it. Let's get some motivation going.
I'm trying to tell y'all, don't worry about what people say about you. They're going to try to belittle you. They're going to try to satellite your name. They're going to try to sabotage you. They're going to just try to do anything they're trying to do to destroy you.
There we go. There goes some motivation, man. Holy right.
Belift you. Belift set reps.
Yeah.
Belift.
I like it.
Yeah. So with the conversion, I don't know. Were you finished your point before the music started playing?
Yeah. So basically the detailer called me, asked me to think about it. I did a little research and decided, let's give it a shot. Right. I mean, there was no strings attached. And I am so glad that I did. I've never looked back. The community's been such a great fit for me. It's allowed me to, do a lot of non-traditional tours and work in the Navy. I couldn't be more happy with that choice. And Aaron, to your point, I mean, that's, now in recruiting, that's really how I try and steer a lot of folks, right? Go out there, like get on a ship, get your surface warfare officer qualification, and then see what's out there. I mean, there's so many paths you can take in the Navy, right? And your career is really, what you make of it. And thankfully, the HR, community did that for me.
Yeah, I like that. There's so much you can do in the Navy. So many rocks, I think, stones that get unturned.
Yeah.
So I know you don't come off like a what could have been kind of person, right? But I gotta ask this question, and maybe you don't have an answer. I know you did the conversion. But could you see yourself commanding a vessel as a SWO captain right now? And if you can, right, what of your own unique flavors would you add to that command?
Gosh, that's a great question. And, that's so true. I really try not to live with any regret. When I was getting ready to leave Paul Hamilton, I remember sitting down with my CEO and, God bless him, he made me get my EL call before I left the ship.
Nice.
Even though I told him.
They go another level of respect.
I know. Even though I told him I wasn't planning on coming back.
He said, ETT.
Even though I told him I wasn't planning on coming back, he's like, I want to set you up for success because I truly believe you'd be a phenomenal commanding officer in the future. And I mean, that just touched me so much. But I think that, again, it was one of those pivotal moments for me where I do truly believe that, whatever I put my mind to, I can be successful at. If I'm truly invested, if I truly care, absolutely. So could I see myself having command at sea? Yes. Was that where my heart was? Was that where my calling, was lying at the time? And it wasn't. And so I feel really comfortable with that decision. But I know if that's the path I was meant to be on, I would absolutely have made the most of it.
Mm-hmm. And then you leave that though, you leave that community and you go do a bunch of stuff that to me looks big, So I know sometime when I talk to officers, I'm like, hey, you worked in this office, and everybody yes, I was a secretary, a glorified secretary. I don't know what these things are, but deputy executive assistant to OpNav M1 Bravo, aide to the SecNav, readiness branch officer at Indo-PACOM, What is all this stuff? I'm guessing Kobe comes in somewhere in these stories, and then what is all this stuff?
So Kobe definitely came in within the alphabet soup of DC, right? It's like every office code is some jumble of letters and numbers that don't make sense to anyone else who's not in them. But I got to DC and I was working in N1, OpNav N1, right? So doing enlisted manpower for the Navy, working billet change requests, line by line. Hey, are the billets that we're filling, are we filling them with the right qualifications? Do they have the right codes attached? It was very much, it was office work, right? I was a lieutenant at the time, but it was a great way to come up in the HR community and really understanding the manning business and as well as the manpower, right? So spaces. And I was in that job as a lieutenant and was asked to interview for the deputy EA, so the executive assistant, to CMP's senior civilian deputy, right? So N1B, SES, senior executive servant. And so went and worked for Mr. Scott Lutterlow for about a year and a half, which was just a phenomenal opportunity. Really, my time in DC, and Kobe, you know this, how I would characterize it was just a peek behind the curtains of how Navy policy is made and shaped at the highest level, to sort of sit in the rooms where decisions were made. And at first it was within the N1 organization, right? So very much HR related, people centric, but it was from that job that my community flag had nominated me to go take a SecNav staff position. So I got to interview while I was there in DC with Secretary Ray Mabus, our 75th SecNav. He asked me to join his staff initially as his protocol officer. So spent 18 months doing that work. And then he asked me to stay on board with him as his aide. So got to really travel the world with him. And Kobe was right there with me, supporting the admin side of all that travel, that kind of pomp and circumstance, hosting foreign dignitaries, gifts, all of it, right? But again, just leadership at the highest level. Really, really cool opportunity.
So to that, Lacey, before we kind of jump into the chief and officer relationship, since we threw a lot of acronyms out there for the listeners, how would you say the relationship between the HR officer and then the standard 6410 admin type would be? How do you say those lanes are in comparison, the same way and different?
Yeah, so there's a lot of overlap, right? And there's been a lot of talk about aligning both of those, communities. I think HR, especially with the stand-up of things like My Navy Career Center, is getting into the less of the administrative side and more of the human element. And then also all the pay and personnel and the enterprise support services that support it. So I think whereas they kind of came together and merged very, very closely for a while, they are kind of branching out again, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, because I know a lot of people, when they think HR, especially from the civilian sector, it's like hiring, firing, and manning, right? And in essence, we have a bit of that in the Navy, the hiring and not so much the firing because you're under contract, but with the manning, right? But, with the 6410, they're more aligned with support of leadership and the administrative sphere, but those lanes can easily cross and mesh. And I think that's where Lacey and our relationship as chief and officer came into play. And I will say for the listeners that know that Lacey likes to work out or whatever, our Pentagon earring walks were like part of that workout, right?
That's right. We got our steps in.
There were many times when we're in the E-ring getting steps, and I'd be like, dang, we passed this
twice,
3 times. Right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But it would be good. It would be good conversation. And I think the biggest thing that, and I would like for you to expound on this too, is that, coming from the Paul Hamilton, to the Pentagon and of course the tours in between, how was that relationship between the officer and the chief beneficial to you?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because coming up in the fleet, like you learn, it's you don't have to learn it, you live it, right? Ask the chief. Like they're the technical experts. They're mentoring you as a JO, and it's very much mission oriented. You're on the deck plates today, every day together. Staff work, which is where we met. It's not life and death every day. We're not going out and fighting ships at sea or recovering airplanes or anything like that. It's paperwork, it's admin work. But I think the more senior you get in our organizations, you realize the importance of connection, right? And having sounding boards and trusted agents and advisors who still have that subject matter, who have that expertise, who have that history, and who have a listening and trusting ear. And I think that's what you and I found in each other, Kobe, that we could be each other's, sounding boards and, hey, let me bounce this idea off you. What do you think about this? How do I write this? How do I word this? Is this the right next step? I think those conversations just become even more important as you rise up the ranks.
No, 100%. And I think the relationships we cultivated throughout the E-ring with, Chimpo, Joint Staff, all the different agencies within the Pentagon. It really became beneficial to us as we moved throughout our career. Like you said, people made phone calls. Well, guess what? Sometimes we were the ones that were making phone calls to people and, changing their career, whether it be stay Navy or, get out or whatever it may be. And, a lot of people think about and see the things that we go through while we're at the Pentagon, and they're like, I don't know if I want to do that tour. But when you have like the direct ear of the Secretary of the Navy and you're able to make change because of a simple question he or she may ask, that is like phenomenal, right? Especially when we're releasing nav admins, these things affect families and things like that. So, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's the gift and the curse about all this, man. About like you build these great teams and you establish these great relationships with people, and then in 2-3 years, you got to try to do it all over again with somebody different. Sometime when the stakes get higher in different roles, you could just keep bringing your person back. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm doing this. He's coming with me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But in the smaller roles, and some of our smaller roles, it's not like that. You got to rebuild again with a different person. And so I said the gift in that is because you do get the reps and sets of doing it again, rebuilding again, working with different people, different personalities. The curse or the sad part to me is that, sometimes people are just irreplaceable, man.
Yeah.
So it's good to even just see y'all. Yeah. It's good to even just see y'all reconnect even at a podcast level. And I'm sure y'all got a relationship outside of this.
Oh yeah, that's my homie, man. I can't, and it's crazy that you're in Pensacola because my cousin is in Pensacola. He retired there, so now I have 2 reasons to go out there and visit. So yeah,
that's right.
No doubt.
Yes,
that's what's up. So I got it. My question is about the SecNav aid gig and what leadership habits did you carry back from that? I mean, working directly with SecNav.
Yeah. Again, I keep saying it's that look behind the curtain, right? I had the opportunity. You work so closely with someone, and there really is no closer relationship oftentimes than between the principal and his aide. You see moments that no one else gets to see, and you hear and see things that no one else is privy to. And it's such a trusted position. And I think I really understood, the headspace from which he was making decisions, right? He was a single dad. He was a girl dad. He was a conservationist, right? So I think a lot of policies that he shaped weren't necessarily understood from that perspective, right? So I really got to see that human element come into play.
Right.
But as I take a couple steps back, now having had command myself, there's definitely a gap, right? That's what my time in DC taught me, working for some pretty senior folks, right? Is that even the best intentioned leaders, their vision, their policy does not always hit the deck plate at the right, the way that it was intended, right? There's often a gap and a disconnect between the vision and reality. And having, been not too far removed from the deck plates of Paul Hamilton, that was not lost on me. And I made that mental note to myself that, if I was ever fortunate enough to take command, that I would really try and bridge that gap between what was in my head and in my heart and what my sailors actually felt on a day-to-day level.
Yeah, and the way to do it is just staying connected to the sailors. You gotta be they gotta have your ear, and you gotta be listening to them because our peer group changes. I got most of my friends now are CMCs. So now even my peer group level, we got me and Aaron and a couple other CMCs be planning a 4-man weave kind of date, coming up soon, right? We're gonna all go out and eat together. That's just also. So how do I know what's going on deck plates? I gotta be on a deck plates. I gotta get that information straight from the horse's mouth. So we gotta stay in those groups.
Yes.
One thing I wanted to ask Lacey though, right? So you made a point about the connections and how you and Kobe connected, right? I know on a ship, that's like drilled into the chief. We're going through initiation right now, right? Make sure that you train, mentor your divo, empower your divo. I know at the academy, they say, hey, the chief is going to be the deck plate leader, give you that ground level truth. I've been in this area, the DC area, for about 3 years now, right? And in my experience, I came from a destroyer in Japan, and the way I would communicate in certain rooms, some people are like, oh man, you kind of blunt. But then on the ship, it's like, you just know, what is it? Get to the point. So, you know, for you and Kobe, do you think like you all, the way you communicated, just when you say radical candor, you go to the SCA, right? Do you have that radical candor? Do you feel that you came across kind of like, hey, she's a straight shooter? Or is it just, hey man, she's very pro? Do you think that kind of helped you once you went from the fleet to, you know, the Pentagon, you know, the Beltway?
Yeah, and I certainly don't want to speak for Kobe, but I know what resonated with me is like, you just know, like finds like, right? You know when you've met somebody who you can trust, who's going to give it to you straight. No one told Kobe, hey, you know, come mentor me, coach, come show me what's up. We sought each other out. We saw the goodness in each other. You know, we saw that we weren't afraid to call it like it was.
Yeah,
and I think that was the instant point of connection. But to your point, like if I hadn't had that time at sea, perhaps, and just, hey, just give it to me, it's black and white, and let's, you know, move forward. I wouldn't have necessarily had that perspective.
Yeah. So for me, like I literally got I won't say talking to, but I got a reminder of iron sharpens iron, right? And Lacey was that person that was, you know, able to understand that, right? And so one of the things that sticks out vividly in my mind is that we were able to have conversations that would not only benefit the team, but it would have us to have a unique understanding of the team, if that makes sense, right? So the way I can explain it is, you know, knowing what's going on in the moment for the staff, right? It was important that we did that, because if we didn't do that, then we would lose pulse, and, you know, what good are we to the team? And then the other part too is knowing that, you know, as Lacey mentioned, we're not tip of the spear, we're not underway or anything like that. But the hours are arduous. I mean, there have been times when the lights went out in the building on us, so we were in there so late working at night, right? Full disclosure, I spent the night in the Pentagon one night. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got up, I went down to the pack, I showered, and I came back up, and we were right back at work, because there were some things that were going on the staff that we needed to get done. And it, you know, it is what it is. I left a little earlier that day, but yeah, it is what it is, right? But again, going back to the aspect of looking out for and knowing your sailors, you know, there were times when Lacey would see me and she'd be like, hey, let's go for a walk. And I'd be like, man, I'm overwhelmed right now. She'd be like, let's go for a walk. And, you know, whether that benefited her in that moment or benefited me as the chief and recalibrating in that moment, you know, it's needed. You know what I'm saying? When you can walk over to the front office and say, hey, you know, let's go for a walk, that means a lot. So it's a piece there where you have to be able to have that understanding without even knowing what's going on. So a little bit of situational awareness.
Yeah, we got to condition ourselves. Like, that's one of the most important things to me as leaders, is making sure that we continue to condition that thought process that we need to be honest with each other. The moment we stop doing that, like, we fail our commands, right? And that whole iron sharpens iron theory and all of that, sometimes it's only good but one time. You know what I'm saying? So you try to go sharpen some iron one time, and that iron respond the way that is not the way that's conducive to, like, you being invited to feel like you could continue to do it. Some people stop. They don't continue to do
100%.
it. So that's one of the things we have to, and, you know, leadership, some of that comes with ego, some of that comes with, you know, I've been here before and all this type of stuff. So those traits and leadership are things that we have to continue to be cognizant of, that we got to condition it. And like you said, Kobe, like, look up every couple minutes, which is really every couple months or so, and be like, hey, am I being as honest as I can? Because sometimes you get into this loop where you just want everything to be good. And then, like, everything ain't good. You know, we need to have some radical candor. You know, and that's why a lot of people, when they about to turn over, they start seeing all the things that they've neglected the last 6 months or a year or something like that, right? I want to go to Endo-PACOM, J1, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so, and that's what, counting readiness across the fleet, something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which was like, hard enough as it was, but then you throw a global pandemic on top of that, and you're no kidding, like counting real world numbers every single day. Yeah, that was a tough one. Both my husband and I thought we were going back to Hawaii for another tour in paradise, and it was much like Kobe mentioned. I'd go to work in the dark and come home in the dark as well. That was a tough tour, but it allowed me to get joint qualified, which was huge for a professional milestone for me. So certainly worth it.
Now, how did that perspective change how you approach recruiting?
The time at Paycom?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it did, quite honestly. I think it made me appreciate when I picked up 05 and then had the opportunity to take command of an intake. I was ready to leave Hawaii and do something completely different. But I do think it was a great reminder to me of what it meant to kind of get back out to the tip of the spear and bring some of that real world, experience and insight into a completely different realm. Because that was, my time in Nashville was literally my first exposure to Navy recruiting. So a little bit daunting heading into XOCO fleet up, not having touched recruiting before, but best hands down, best tour of my career.
What you think was your toughest test so far in these 21 years in the Navy?
Toughest test. Man, that's a great question. It always relates back to doing the hard thing, making the decision that's tough in the moment, but pays dividends. I mean, we started out talking, and I haven't really shared that a lot. The fact that when I first applied to the Naval Academy, I didn't get in, right? It would have been really easy. Again, coming from a small town, everybody thought I was going to go off to some big name school. I had a ROTC scholarship lined up at Penn State. I could have just gone and done that, right? But that would have been a completely different trajectory if I had never gone to Annapolis, right? So there's moments like that that have continued to push me to know in any given moment when it feels hard, but it feels right to push through and to persevere.
Yeah, I know you really keep a real positive outlook. Like you flip mostly everything to a positive outlook, and I appreciate that. So you took over as OIC of Nauru in Pensacola. I think and that's for people that don't know, that's recruiter school. It's pretty much recruiter school.
Yep.
And if you don't know, it's a 5-star reviewed school on Google. I saw somebody on Google say, "Hey, it's the best recruiter school in the Navy."
There you go. That's right.
There you go. But what are students learning there? It's a 9-week long program, right? It went from 10 weeks to 9 weeks a while ago or something. Is it 9 weeks?
Yeah, so there's a variety of curriculum that we teach there, and it's across the entire recruiting career, right? So the beginner class, kind of the entry, get your foot in the door, NRO, kind of enlisted Navy recruiting orientation is a 5-week course. And we used to get sailors straight from their previous command to Nauru. We teach them the very basics of recruiting and then send them to their NTAG. We've now developed a program called the iStop, where they instead report from last command to their NTAG first, spend 60 days there, starting to learn the lingo. They get, their business cards, their laptops, their cell phones. They get plugged into Salesforce, where they understand what their recruiting territory is. And then they come down to the schoolhouse. They're able to put real world knowledge to the test. And we found that program to be super beneficial. So we're getting a little bit more seasoned of a recruiter, or at least somebody who understands what's what before they get down to the classroom. We teach them up right for 5 weeks, and then we send them back to the NTAG. And then, because it's a center of excellence, right? They continue to come visit us at Nauru at different points during their career, each for a couple weeks at a time.
Yeah. And how many pull-up bars do you have in that building now? There's one in your office, right? Is it a pull-up bar in your office?
There's one outside of my office. That is the only one. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's actually a small gym in the building. And so there was one before I got there. But I don't know who was using that one because it was super high. I know I couldn't get up there. So we put one that was right sized right outside my office. And, me and the team get after it every single morning.
That's cool.
Lacey, were you still on SecNav staff when Mike Bowers was there?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you remember that pull-up bar he put in the office?
Yes. Yes.
Hey, so we had a Marine administrative assistant, so 05, 06 to the SecNav. And we had a water cooler literally like right outside my desk. And he just came through with this great idea. And I think that's where Lacey stole it from.
I think so.
And he said, hey, I want to put in his Marine voice, hey, I want to put a pull-up bar right here where this water cooler is. And I was like, yeah, he wildin'. He just checked on board. Let's get him to serve the SecNav first. Man, I promise you, within 2 weeks to a month, that pull-up bar was assembled and put right outside, and it was a contraption. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Was it a morale booster?
No, because I think it was unsecure, right? And that's kind of why I thought about that when Lacey was like, she had one right outside her office. I'm thinking about in my mind that viral video of somebody going up to pull a pull-up bar and it falls down. So that thing was a contraption, and I have witnesses that can say that. But hopefully, the one that's in Pensacola is secure, Lacey.
It is secure, absolutely secure.
All right.
Yeah.
So is pull-ups your jam, Lacey? That's like your main back exercise, pull-ups?
Pull-ups are my jam for sure. And I will tell you, I got good at them when I was in Hawaii at that J1 Indo-PACOM job, working out at Camp Smith. So again, during COVID, during lockdown, no classes were being held at the base gym. I mean, you could barely even go inside, right? So I found myself in a group of young Marines, and we would go out Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays and do lift kettlebells, really heavy kettlebells. And at the end of the workout, we'd all try and max out pull-ups and dips. And there's just something really cool about getting your body strong enough to do pull-ups, right? It is phenomenal for your physical body, but it's also a huge confidence boost for your mind. And to get out there, I was, nearly 40 at the time, and to be doing pull-ups with kids who were half my age was super cool. And, I haven't stopped doing them since. So I had the pull-up bar in Nashville, and then, made sure one was installed at Nauru when I got there.
Do you get triggered when you see CrossFit pull-ups? Because I do.
No kipping. Kipping is not allowed. Yeah.
Y'all heard it. No kipping. There you go. I hate CrossFit pull-ups.
Is that the one where you pull up and then you pull up again?
Kind of like a dead fish, kind of like doing some, That's what I'm doing, man.
There's a whole rhythm
that looks
to
like
it.
a joint is going to come out of place. I've seen that.
It does.
Yeah.
That's my new personal goals, these pull-ups, man.
Perfect. Well, come on down to Nauru.
I like it.
I gotta do it. Get a little prep first before I go there.
Okay, that's fair. Well, it's funny, right? Because that's what a lot of the students are saying. Like, I can't get up there and max out. I'm like, that's okay, and that's how we started in Nashville, right? I mean, to be like, we would just get together and cheer each other on. Some people can just hang on the bar. Some people are working on just getting one or working on getting their first 10. But wherever they're at, I just think it's super cool to get together and to your point, lead from the front and start your day doing something hard.
Yeah, I went to a playground. The monkey bars and the little ladder thing that I remember like doing that, like no issue, no sweat. I went there, man. I tried to swing one over. I was like, this ain't working out, man. I had to drop down, man. So, but I've been, and I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about it later. I've been on a bit of a workout kind of thing. I got bit by the bug. I'm gonna talk to you when we start talking about fitness. I kind of got bit by the bug. But so Intact Nashville, we talk about 46 recruiting stations across 7 states, 138,000 square miles, right? You get there, and this is quoted from you, morale and mission down, right? You get there, morale and mission kind of low. Nashville crush mission, I think 2,325 contracts, 93% shipping, 101% new contract objectives, right? So what adjustments were made? That's the first question. And then the second question is, what was the first lever pulled as those adjustments were being made?
Yeah. The big adjustment was we simply cared, right? So for a variety of reasons, at recruiting commands, instead of a triad, you've got your top 4, right? So CO, XO, CMC, and then a chief recruiter. And it just so happened, obviously they try and stagger those turnovers, right? But for a variety of circumstances, all 4 of us came in brand new at the same time. And I was XO at the time when I came in. And so it was really an opportunity for people who thankfully were just so aligned on so many levels without even knowing it, but putting 4, fresh sets of eyes on an old way of doing business and just saying, hey, we can do this better and we owe it to our sailors to do it better. And step 1 was just showing that we cared. And, when it's that geographically dispersed of a command, walking the deck plates takes on a whole new meaning. It was, at that time, the skipper and the CMC just getting in the govey and driving. And I did the same thing, when I stepped into the CO's role. It was just getting out and actually just seeing and touching and saying thank you to our sailors who were out in, the West Little Rock and doing the hard work of Navy recruiting. And up to that point hadn't been, awarded or thanked or asked what they needed. It was simply showing that we cared. It was opening the lines of communications, making sure that they weren't getting information, second, third, fourth order effect, that they were hearing it directly from leadership. And that made all the difference in the world.
Yeah. So it's good to get everybody there at the same time. No, it's good to have all fresh. Like people might think, oh man, we all fresh. No, it is great to have all fresh eyes at the same time. That's a great thing. Because there's no still like funk juice sitting around like, oh no, that's how we've been doing it. So it's good. That's good. And then the second thing that's good is that you put the sellers first, right? Like let's get over to the sellers, because if we pour into them, that's the way everything else works. And I believe that. I think that's the way you change the culture. I think that's the way you attack the culture. You can't get up in your office and start changing all your programs and policies. It's like you throwing like just darts at a wall. Like you got to get to the sellers. And first of all, they're going to let you know what the problems are. They're going to let you know some of that stuff and how you could get those small wins. So it's really like beneficial to get out there and get with those sellers. One of the things that I think about is quality over quantity when it comes to recruiting. And I've heard people say that before and stuff like that. And my question, is that a thing? Is that something that people say? And also, if so, how do we define quality of an session?
That's a great question. And, I think where we're at right now, quantity also does matter, right? We're building a future fighting force, and we're also trying to build the pool that we're drawing from, right? So we're building on a lot of levels each and every day, and I think there's definitely been concerns about the quality because we're trying to get so many numbers. We're trying to really bring in a huge quantity of future sailors, but to me, the quality doesn't change. We may have different mechanisms for allowing folks, giving them some runtime to improve both physically and mentally. But at the end of the day, it's people who are highly propensed to join the service, who want to be here, who want to serve their country, and who are going to do everything it takes to get prepared to ship off to boot camp.
Mm-hmm. What's one myth about recruiting that you would kill if you could? Or do you know, are you tapped in to hear any of these rumors?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it was overwhelming, going through the PXO pipeline on my way to NTAG Nashville. And you just hear so many, I wouldn't say horror stories. It's just, just how recruiting is, people's preconceived notions, right? And I'm one of those people, like you said, I try not to walk into any situation with any preconceived notions. I think I had probably tucked in the back of my mind things that I should try to, guard against, right? But there's often, when you're thinking about that leadership quad, right? There's examples, or there have been examples in the past where that doesn't always gel or jive seamlessly. And to me, when you bring 4 people to the table who, again, are brand new to the organization and everybody is willing to be vulnerable and a team player, those barriers just very naturally fall down. So to me, if you don't make issues of things that are historically issues, they tend not to become them, right?
Yeah, because I heard some dirty stuff about recruiting days of old, man. Like some stuff that I'm waiting to get out the Navy to talk about.
Car salesman? Or you talking about something worse than that?
Recruiting? No, I heard like this one story where the dude said like something happened. I can't get into it, but he said the dude told him like, hey man, don't ever send me an email via professional Navy channels. Like if you want to talk to me, it's only phone call, man. Like, cause he was doing some dirty stuff. So it's like, I don't want the paper trail, stuff like that, stuff like fudging people's health stuff to get people in, it's a whole lot of stuff. Somebody was like, I'm gonna give you all the recruiting tea one of these days, bro.
I heard more about MEPS and mission night. That's what I heard about. Like mission night, they're trying to make box and it's like, hey, you bring your worst. We're going to get them in tonight. I'm like, stands a standard, but heard more about MEPS rather than recruiting.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you hear the horror stories too, like the MEPs and the NTAGs, right? The recruiting districts don't work together. I found nothing to be further from the truth in Nashville. So to me, it's all about the mindset that you have, or lack thereof. Those preconceived notions going into it. But yeah, I heard all the horror stories. I try not to let them scare me.
Are you guys a direct report to CNRC?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the grand scheme of things, would this be like the Twilight Tour, the tour before taking over as CNRC, or no?
No. So CNRC, up until Admiral Waters took command back in 2024, it was a 1-star. It was a new 1-star billet. And obviously Admiral Waters is, certainly a more senior officer and has really, completely turned around. Talk about a transformational leader, but turned around Navy recruiting. So, when you think about kind of the hierarchy, at NTAG command as an 05, now doing an 06 command tour, I could potentially look to go back and be a Commodore, right? So in charge of 13 of those 26 NTAGs. And then perhaps a step above that, is CNRC staff.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're out of Millington, right?
Out of Millington. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So thinking about CNRC, right? So I'm thinking about this, right? So you got your goals, your wishes, your goals, and whatever benchmarks you need to hit, right? And it's just me making an assumption as a CMC who used to be an EM that's something that recruiting will have, right? Benchmarks, goals, things I need to hit. Mid-year, CNRC comes up with a change that remixes all of that, right? How do you handle that when your team is already running at full speed, running a mission?
This honestly was, one of the biggest challenges of my entire career, right? Because it's one thing to come into an organization that's underperforming and look like a superstar because you've turned it around. And that's what happened when I was in the XO seat. But then as XO, look at taking over a command that was then at that time really high performing. And you're asking them to, continue to run this marathon, to use a sports analogy, at a sprint's pace. No breaks, no days off, no time to catch your breath. Like, we needed to go. And to your point, when our goals got reworked for FY24, we took nearly a 50% goal increase. We had moved mountains to make the progress that we saw in FY23 happen, and then to say, okay, great, thank you. And that's what I told my team, right? To whom much is given, much is expected. And so how could we take what we were doing and just continue, to do it 1% better every single day? And that really became my leadership philosophy, right? It was level up, because there was nowhere else we could go. And what I wasn't going to do, because recruiting is such a dynamic environment, was, going back to my SWO days, swing that rudder too far to the right or to the left based on any given mission, month, day, or week, right? It was like, no, we are good at what we've been doing. Let's just do it consistently and do it consistently a little bit better each and every day.
And what are some ways to give back to those recruiters that, might be feeling that burnout or might be feeling overworked? What are some of the tactics, you might use as a commanding officer?
Yeah, that's such a nuanced question because, all about, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, right? Every person, every sailor is motivated differently. And so it were those conversations, that myself and the CMC had with our recruiters on the road to really figure out what was driving each one of them uniquely. So some just needed more time off, time with their family, right? And so we were able to incentivize with, meeting certain goals and then awarding with days off out of the office. Some people like things, like they like tangible things. They want to hang, awards and knickknacks and stuff on their walls. And so we definitely had, recruiting has plenty of tangible awards that we can give. But for me, and that's how I'm, motivated, right? I'm a words of affirmation gal. It's like, hey, just tell me I'm doing a good job and I will go all day. And so some of those car trips and those visits were out to really rural stations to say thank you. Hey, thank you for what you're doing. Keep doing it. Well,
here's some words of affirmation. If it was any perfect way to answer that question for me personally, you answered it perfectly for me personally. I really appreciate that answer. Everybody is different. Right. You got to treat people, you got to kind of meet people where they are. Not everybody's motivated by the same recognition, reward, stuff like that. But one of the things that I think about just thinking about you is, I think you told yourself early in your command tour, you are enough. All the experience has led you to this moment, right? And that's something I've had to tell myself. I'm almost sure everybody had to tell themselves that every once in a while. Is that something that you had to tell yourself more than once?
Yeah. And still every day, I think we like to talk about imposter syndrome like it's something that only happens to every other person every once in a while. Shoot, I've dealt with imposter syndrome at every single stage in my career. You just got to get up every single morning and know that you're in the right place for the right reason, and that the right words will come, and you will be enough, and you are enough. And I think every day that you step into, what it is you do with that mindset makes you one day stronger and one day more sure that, you are on the right path and you have all the skills that you need to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Any memorable stories coming out of recruiting for you? Like any memorable contract stories or shipping stories about like specific cases or something like that?
I don't know if there's any I can disclose.
That's what I figured.
There it is.
Disclosure.
Sign an NDA?
No, I can't think of really any that come to top of mind. Again, I think it just really comes down to leadership, right? I really got to lead and serve. But recruiting, again, recruiters are, and especially the career recruiting force, is different. It's just a different breed, right? And I think I really learned a lot about authentic leadership. And just because somebody comes to the job and doesn't act or work or do things the way that you would, there's still something to be learned. And I learned every single day when I was in a recruiting environment.
So if you could add like your own special ingredient to the recipe of recruiting as a whole, right? Navy-wide as a whole, not on a command level, what would it be?
I just started talking about this with the classes that we graduate at NORU. I get to, speak to them, one, when they come in on day one, but then also when they graduate. One of the things we've really been talking about is recruiting. Everything is a metric, right? You're either in the red or you're in the green. It's very quantitative.
Yeah.
And I think so many people get wrapped up in staying out of the red. I never once said that to my team. I never said, don't fail. I said, let's freaking succeed, right? We are in the green. Let's stay in the green. I think there's such a different attitude associated with recruiters and commands and just people in general. When you are running scared from failure, you're moving in the same direction, right? But when you're doing it and you're just trying to beat your best and every day stay one step ahead, like there's such a different attitude there. And so I think it's tough. It's tough to get that level of buy-in when what you're doing is being so managed and counted quantitatively, but to kind of get out of those, ones and zeros and just say, I'm going to shoot for the top was a game changer for us, certainly at Nashville.
Yeah, I heard you say that at your I think it was a change of command. You said, never run from failure. Always run towards success. Yeah. That was heavy. That's heavy. Yeah. I don't know if that came from you or somebody, Aristotle, you know what I mean? But
I spent so many long car rides, driving the state of Tennessee and all that with my CMC. We had some phenomenal conversations. And we came up with a lot of those. Just, this is what we did that worked. There's so much goodness there.
Like, write that down.
Yeah, I caught that. That was heavy. Yeah.
So on that note, on that strand, Lacey, how do you feel like the influencers have helped with the recruiting process?
I think it's huge. And again, and I said it before we got started here, but I'm just so honored and privileged, and I know people have their own thoughts on what the word influencer means, but y'all are, you're doing that work of influencing our current force and our future force. And I think it can be such a tool for good if used the right way. Because even, as recent as last week, right, we saw CNO come out and say, hey, I want to do away with all these NAV admins, right? I want to get away from people having to pull papers and documents and messages, right? This is the new normal. This is the way that we have a conversation. This is the way that word gets out, is platforms like this and people like y'all.
It's so hard to embrace that, Lacey. It's so hard to try to be low. It's so hard to embrace being an influencer. I fight it every time. It's like, there's so much more I could do. Like,
I think God, he should have.
Yeah. And you know who does a phenomenal job of it? And I know you had him on the podcast, Derby Alota. He and I met at the Arnold Classic last year. And I just think the work that he does is just so powerful. He absolutely gets that right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that decide to turn their phone on and like advocate for the Navy, a lot of them are very authentic. Like most of them, Captain Alota, one time he sent me a picture, right? I'm sure I could share this, but he was at the parking spot of my command. I just wasn't there that day. Like, but he popped up at my command and just come visit. You know what I mean? Like he just happened to be around the way. And he took a picture outside my parking spot. Like, hey, where you at, homie? I'm actually home today. You know, so but that's super. Like, man, that's so authentic and super real. And he support us hopefully, and we support him hopefully. You know, so I appreciate that, and he does not have to do none of that stuff. Really nobody has to. Like, we have our jobs is to lead and do the best that we could do there. So when I see people step up and put their arms around like a bigger mass of sailors, man, that just multiplies like all of that motivation and everything like that. With us, you're gonna get good stuff, you're gonna get some bad stuff, you're gonna get some of that real stuff too. It's scary sometimes, Kobe. Speaking of heavy stuff, what's the hardest conversation that you ever had to have with a sailor?
Oh, wow.
We talk often in recruiting about can't do and won't do. And I think that folks who are just struggling, right, because it's hard, those are easy conversations to have. They're not often fun, right? But it's the people, it's the folks, and they're few and far between. At least that's what I found. But who won't do, right? Who just decide that they're not going to show up and give their best. And especially after, you've given multiple times and pieces of advice and heartfelt counseling sessions, when there's just no drive, when there's just no want to, those are always the hardest ones because you can't, there's nothing you can do about that. Yeah.
What's harder? Those conversations are briefing the sec nav.
Wow.
Yeah. Not brief. I had an opportunity to work for just a phenomenal man in SecNav Mavis. Really just an inspiring leader to work for. And it wasn't, after probably the nervousness of that first brief or two, we had a phenomenal relationship. So it's those hard deck plate conversations. It's those conversations where, folks just aren't. And, I talked about this at Detnor the other day too, is, just not meeting your expectations. I think when you're a leader, when you're, type A, like we all, you just expect people to rise to your level. And when they don't, it's really disappointing. Like that's the stuff that I take really personally. And that was, another thing that, my CMC and I at Nashville talked about was like, you can't, you have to manage your own expectations, but don't ever lower your standards.
Mm-hmm. And as we kind of move into bodybuilding, right? One of the things I heard you say before, you talked about trusting your next step. Trusting your next step. Is that also a baby from those conversations with the CMC? Like, where'd you pick that up? Because I know that's something that you kind of got like the same aspect as me, where I don't do too much I'm assuming this, but I'm not doing all that. Like I knew somebody that was like, I got my whole career mapped out. I got this coming up. I'm going to be this. I'm going to convert an officer, and they do it. They do it all. And I'm like, I'm going to just do the best that I could do here, and wherever that takes me, it takes me. And I feel like you had that approach a little bit more than the former.
Yeah, that's so right, Damo. And I think that's the one thing that I can't even explain about how I approached my Navy career that way, because I am so freaking type A. Everything else about me is so orderly, and I know exactly how my day. But when I've never thought about or held too tightly what was on that 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 15-year plan. I just showed up every single day, and I still do. And I work as hard as I possibly can from the moment I get in to the moment I leave. I put my heart into it, and I just feel like all the right doors have opened for me.
Are you a cook? That's a random question.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm I'm a horrible cook.
Okay.
I got a question about the meal prep portion when you're doing bodybuilding.
That's all my hobby. I am so blessed.
And I know you said he is your. I know you said he is your meal prepper, Derek. He is your meal prepper.
Yes.
So I want to get into that. And I know, like, man, that's grueling. Like foods and fitness prep. We get into it right now. So 2022, I think it's 2022. You step into bodybuilding, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. What makes you take that leap?
It was purely best body at 40. I had been an athlete my entire life. And I knew I was physically strong. I knew I was physically fit. But quite honestly, I never felt like my body truly reflected all the time and the hard work I had put into it.
Right.
So again, it wasn't until I was out in Hawaii and, really started I had always strength trained. But really when I started training kettlebells was the first time I really was lifting super heavy, super consistently. And when I paired that with diet and really working in a calorie deficit, I got really lean and strong to the point where somebody at the gym asked me if I had competed or I was going to compete. And I didn't even know what she was talking about, but thankfully she recommended a coach. I met with that coach and we put together a plan that I would step on stage a week before my 40th birthday. And that's all I thought it was going to be, right? One and done, bucket list item, best body at 40. But I am very competitive by nature and I did well at that show, that bug bit, and I've been doing it for the last 4 years.
Yeah. And then you went pro over a year ago, right?
No. I've not gone pro, not yet.
Okay. You didn't go.
But I'm going to put that out there. That's absolutely the goal. Yep. For sure.
But it is the goal. Is that a retirement goal?
No, that is
next month, next couple of weeks from now.
I'm hoping in the next season or two. Yeah.
Okay. So you leading sellers and you cutting for shows at the same time. What's the commonality between prep and command?
It's interesting. I think that, and especially a lot of the folks that I've interacted with in the bodybuilding community, they see me as a member of the military and they probably, I know that they think, hey, you've got an advantage because you're used to being so disciplined and structured. and that's true to some extent. I mean, that's my nature, right? And it certainly helps, right? To me, it is, my days are always easier when, like, the fuller they are, the more structured everything is, the more I can cram in and schedule and put in the right place and put in the right Tupperware container. That feels really good to me. But I think what I found, what has really, kind of struck me about the sport is the further I get in the sport, the better leader I become. It has really paid dividends in terms of me not being afraid to step up and step out and be seen and be a strong example for my sailors each and every day.
Yeah, you just feel better too. Like when you live better and you look better, you just feel better. You could get out in front and things and do things and stuff like that. It's just a different vibe. Your body feels better. You sleep better. You like everything kind of grooves a whole lot better. That's just, man, that is what it is.
Are you workouts in the morning or like in the evening or afternoon?
I was about to ask that.
So right now, since I'm in, it's kind of the off season. So my goal is to train, heavy, is to lift super heavy, fuel my body a little bit more with a little bit more food, and really dial down the cardio. So it's a one workout a day right now. I do my strength training in the morning, and we'll do a little bit of cardio either at the very end or beginning of that workout. But I'm in the gym for about 2 hours before I go to work. But in the competition prep season, when I'm cutting, then after work, I will go back and do a second cardio session. And that's when the calories get lower and things get pretty crazy. So
2 hours every day?
Oh,
2 hours every day, Lacey?
Do you guys take a lot of naps? Or?
There's no...
Do I take a lot of naps?
Because I'd imagine like the amount of like what Kobe's saying, 2 hours, you're lifting heavy, you got to recover, you're fueling, but the body has to sleep to recover, I imagine. So you're taking like these little power naps, or you just constantly going
I rest, so I get a lot of sleep at night. Like I said, like we're getting really close. It's almost 8 o'clock here, like pretty close to my bedtime. But yeah, I mean, I'll nap on the weekend, but no, I mean, Monday through Friday, it's a lot of caffeine and a lot of positivity and yeah.
So what time does your day start then?
5.
So you're in the gym at 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then what time? You say around 8 o'clock or 20?
Yeah, so my first meeting is at 8, so I'm in the office ready to go by 8 o'clock.
Okay, and then Saturday and Sunday are your rest days.
I rest completely on Sundays. Saturday is typically a cardio only day, so I'll get a little bit of cardio in.
Okay.
Oh man, we're gonna keep you up a little late tonight.
I'm here for it.
We just got the bodybuilder.
Yeah. On your cheat day, when you have them, are you doing the Dwayne Johnson? You got like a crazy stack of pancakes and steak and eggs, or just like you get your one burger.
I think it's a little bit of a myth. I don't know. You know, I'm not a 250-pound man, right? I'm a 130-pound woman. So
right.
You know, my cheat days look a little bit different. I do get calorie bumps, and I certainly work with my coach to make sure I'm getting the fuel that I need. But yeah, it's typically a little bit cleaner these days. I do love a good burger. I love sweet potato fries. Yeah, but I mean, nothing too crazy. I have found, and especially as I get older, consistency with my diet is really what makes all the difference.
Right.
It really does. I mean, anybody can go in and train for an hour or two every day. It's what you're doing the other 23 hours of the day, what you're putting in or not putting into your body that makes all the difference.
You make me feel bad. I'm trying to run.
I got this thought about, what about you running, Aaron?
What was that?
You are running right now. You are training, right? You are running.
I'm training, like I'm getting my miles in, but I guess the young bucks call it dirty bulking. Like I'd run and I get crazy hungry. And I'm like, should I eat this healthiness or should I get this, curry chicken and roti? Like I'm gonna get the curry chicken and roti, not the chicken Caesar salad. That's kind of my pitfall. So I gotta lock in better, but yeah.
How are you recovering, bro? Like, what do you do to recover from these 8-mile runs?
I have been napping. So, like, every so often in my office, I'll grab a 15 minutes, close the door at lunch.
That's awesome.
I'm talking about, like, are you stretching? Are you, like, what you doing with your body, bro?
My fault. Yeah. Now, they're going to get on me now. They're like, yo, CMC taking a nap in his office.
The reason I'm asking is because I've been running more now, and I'm like, and I know I'm getting older. Like it was a time when I didn't recover, and then like 8 months in, I like hurt something or sprain something, and then I recover, and then I get back to it. Right. So I'm trying to figure out stretching. Okay. Like, what do you do for recovery?
I've been walking a lot more. Like I walk the dog, and I've been walking a lot. Like I'm not supposed to stretch, but a lot of times just like doing a longer walk. Sometimes even walking. Yeah, like the walks would help me.
You gotta read that David Goggins book, man.
David gonna get somebody killed, man. I'm not doing all that, yo.
Well, he had to stretch because he damn near died, man. But hey, so Lacey, what do you do to recover?
A lot. So I'm horrible at stretching. I won't do it unless I'm kind of forced. So every Friday, so tomorrow morning, I'll go and I'll do an hour of yoga. They do a yoga class on base just so I can get my stretching in. I get body work done routinely. So I do, full body deep tissue massage every week. Yeah, I just got dialed into a really great chiropractor down here. So I get aligned every 2 weeks. Yeah. So yeah, all that stuff.
So do you use the gun too? Sorry, Donald.
Yep.
No, you good. So you get stationed in a place, right? And you got two things going on. You got your career going on and everything that comes with the career climb, right? The natural career climb. But then you got the bodybuilding lifestyle going on too. And you start to build up these networks and these groups of people, these communities and stuff like that. And then with the career we have, we up and leave that place. And then we got to reestablish ourselves somewhere new. And you already said that you was an introvert when we started talking about this. So how is that? Do you just go to the next? So for instance, right, when you were in Nashville, you had the NPC Natural Battle of the Titans at the Music City Fit Expo. It seemed a little bit as if it was a relationship building between Command and what you were doing outside of Command, which I thought was pretty cool, right? That's where we want life to be. right? That's kind of where we want life to be, where the thing you love, well, both things you love to do, but the thing you do professionally and the thing you do personally got like this symmetry.
Yes.
You build all that and then you go somewhere else.
Yeah.
How is that?
So I will say, and what a great question. Like Nashville was very unique, right? And I talked about that a lot when I was in that moment. I felt very present during that time. It was very much the aligning of all of my personal and professional goals all in one spot. And I felt really blessed and lucky, one, to be able to do something that filled up my tank so much, but also pay dividends for spreading Navy awareness and Navy recruiting. I mean, it was definitely a win-win. And so, yeah, I'm certainly now down here in Pensacola looking to do some of the same things. But yeah, it's just being smart about who I connect with and how I spend my very limited free time. You know, it's one thing in Nashville, right? There's no base, right? So I worked out at a gym out in town, right? That's a phenomenal way to meet people in the fitness community. Now it's a little bit different, right? I work out on the base gym. I don't have those opportunities to network, right? So like at the end of the month, I'll go and do a women's conference here in Pensacola. And my hope is that, you know, meet some folks in the fitness space and kind of go from there. But again, I do really feel that, you know, as long as I'm showing up authentically every day in the gym, every day at my job, doing stuff like this, getting out there on social media, like those relationships will naturally take care of themselves.
And then some of these relationships come from networking, right? I mean, like being a part of different expos and stuff like that, it comes from leveraging just that type of networking sense.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. It's also a lesson for other people that, hey, you could do that. Like, you know, it's not like run it through whoever you need to run it, but it's always people hungry to collaborate with military.
Yeah.
Right. So the Arnold Expo, that was back in March. You were involved in that. I believe your trainer won something there.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, talk about right place, right time. So being in Nashville, so I work with my bodybuilding coach, the gentleman who does my nutrition programming, my training programming. He's out in California. We connect virtually. That's very doable. He writes my workouts for me, does my diet. But so much of the competing process is about how you pose your physique, right? So one of my coach's pros lived in the Nashville area, Vanya August, and I got linked up with her. She's just been a phenomenal resource for me within the community, has really helped me with my posing routine, but we also became really, really great friends. Because again, you know, like-minded people, there's that connection, somebody who works hard, who's chasing after their goals. And so to be there, so separately through Navy recruiting and Navy outreach, I was asked to go and represent Navy at the Arnold Fitness Expo. And super cool event. Arnold's there, Jocko's there. I mean, it is just a madhouse of all the coolest fitness influencers from across the nation. But part of that is an actual, you know, pro bodybuilding contest where athletes compete for the title of you know, Miss Bikini International, you know, the winner of the Arnold Classic, right? Arnold's there handing out the trophies in a huge packed arena. And I got to be there on stage presenting awards as my trainer from Nashville, Tennessee, won the title of Miss Bikini Olympia. So to be backstage and to kind of hold her hands right before she stepped out on stage and speak words of faith and power to her. And again, just two people just building each other. It was just such an incredible thing to be a part of.
Yeah. And just for the listeners so they can know, because I can't, like I said, I have a hard time remembering them all. What are all your accomplishments so far since you've been bodybuilding?
Yeah, so I've started out at the amateur level with the National Physique Committee. So my first, it was a local show in Hawaii. And I won the true novice category. So what that meant was I was the best first time competitor. And like I said, that's when the bug bit, because I feel like that validated that, you know, I had some natural talent within the sport. So I was getting ready to PCS to Nashville not too long after that, and got involved, competed at a bigger show, did well there. And then that's when I found the coach that I'm with now. That's when we connected, and he's kind of helped me take it to that next level. So last year, I actually went to the national stage, right? So you take all the best amateur and local competitors from across the nation and you put them on a stage together. That was in Teaneck, New Jersey, just right outside of New York City last summer. So that was definitely a reality check. It was such a phenomenal event, but I realized that, I've got a lot of growing to do. And, being in the Navy, being in the military, I'm a natural athlete. I don't take anything to supplement my workout regimen. Yeah. And so, competing against folks who that's not necessarily the case, it's just, it's a steep learning curve. It's a lot of work to put in. And so I've really taken 2 years, it will be by the time I step back on the national stage next May, 2 years away from the national stage to really just grow and build my physique. But in that interim, I was able to come back and do another local show, which allowed me to participate in the Natural Battle of the Titans and represent Nashville, represent Navy recruiting, represent Nashville at a local show, and just have fun with the sport.
Yeah, well, I saw a couple trophies on an Instagram post. I hear the humility. Right? I saw a couple trophies, body by I want to say, I forgot what it was, but your trainer. I saw about three. About 3 trophies. Yeah. It's at least 5-6 trophies in the house somewhere.
Yeah, it's not, now that I'm older, I'm considered a master's athlete, so I can compete in the 35 and above category, 40 and above. And most shows do heroes categories, right? So military, first responders all compete against one another as well. Because again, they're all mostly natural, drug tested athletes. And it's just a really cool community to be a part of.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things I heard you say was that building the body at this age is a lot. Like the muscle tone and definition, I might be saying the wrong words, of course, but you get a lot more defined at this age versus the 20s or something. I heard you say something along those lines.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I've been able to kind of see and experience it all as I've come up through the sport. You get younger athletes, right? Girls in their 20s, right? Who are they're first getting into the sport, a lot of newbie gains. It's easy to put on a lot of new muscle, but it's as you get into these masters categories and you compete against women who have been training for literally decades of their life, it's that hard, dense, full muscle. And that's not something you can build in just a couple months' time, right? That takes years and years of competing. So, I think some people probably think, and I did initially, right? It's going to get easier as I get older. That's not what I found at all. The competition only gets better, which is exciting. It keeps me really excited about my future in the sport.
What keeps you grounded and motivated as you making gains as a commanding officer and making gains as an athlete?
It's exactly that, right? I mean, there's so many athletes who are able and fortunate enough through sponsorships or what have you to make bodybuilding their full-time career, right? Mm-hmm. That's not my story. And I feel so completely blessed and lucky that I can go into the office every day and be a CO, right? Be an OIC. And then when, work is done, I can go get after it in the gym and I can focus on being a bodybuilder. And to be able to do both and, do both to the best of my ability and hopefully represent both well is it keeps me excited. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me hungry and it keeps me humble.
Oh, wow. I
think one of the biggest things that I've seen or heard of from these people that are getting into this lifestyle is that they get to the point where, especially if they don't have a coach or professional coach or anything, where they plateau. What do you feel about, plateauing?
I think you're right. I think that's where the coach comes in, right? Because there is so much of the sport that is just about being consistent, right? And putting in the reps and the sets even when it appears like looking in the mirror, nothing is happening. It's trusting the process. And really, that has been such a powerful lesson to me, right? You show up when you don't feel like it. You do the work that you're supposed to do because it's on your planner for that day. You eat the meals that you're supposed to eat, even when you feel like you want to go eat that rotisserie chicken or whatever, you do all the right things. And you kind of trust the process. And I think, again, the more you do that, the easier it becomes. And I think it helps plateaus not feel as plateau-y, right? It just feels like normal life.
No, absolutely.
Well, I got to ask this question. What's your opinion on the Navy's culture of fitness?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, and which I'm gonna give it a 2-part so you can get on and off that. So you get on and off that quick. But what's your opinion on the Navy's culture of fitness? And then I think we know it based off what we saw on Instagram. But what's your approach to Command PT?
Yeah. So I'm all about it, right? I think, and especially, and I feel comfortable saying this, in or out of recruiting, but who we are, how we show up in our uniforms every single day. Like, we're often people's first and only interactions with military service and with our service, with the Navy, right? It's so important to represent who we are, what we do, and what we stand for in the best way possible. And to me, Donald, you said it, right? The better you look and feel, like the more confident you show up, personally and professionally. And so to me, instilling what it is we do with the culture of fitness is just so important. And it's also just that mental and physical release. The jobs that we do are hard. They're demanding. You need an outlet for it. And so for me, there's too many reasons. We can't afford not to build a culture of fitness within our service.
Mm-hmm. Do you see it as something visually? Does it seem like it's prioritized right now?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that it all comes down to what you're willing to put in personally. And sure, are there plenty of folks who show up and look the part every single day? Absolutely. And there are folks who don't. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And it's incumbent upon us as leaders to figure out how to meet in the middle with all of that. And that was the guidance I'd put out to my team and my mess and my leaders at Noru is we need to find a one size fits all solution. Yeah. And that's hard to do, right? Because, you're always going to have people who grumble about Command PT. Yeah. I don't necessarily like Command PT. It takes away from my training in the gym, right? Like, and when we're doing PT, that is, it's designed to meet everyone's fitness levels. Yeah, there are some days where I'm like, I could be getting in more at the gym, right? But then there's the other side of that coin, folks who haven't PT'd at all that week, and that's their only workout, and that's what we're giving them that opportunity. So to me, there has to be kind of a meet in the middle approach. Getting here, seeing that at the schoolhouse PT wasn't being done, I just simply couldn't believe it. And so we said, hey, let's make this right. Let's at least put something in place. And it can be refined. I'm sure that it will be, but at least we've got it going again.
Yeah, recruiters got to look good, man. You know what I'm saying?
That's the resume, So
yeah, that's like my ceremonial guard sellers. They got to look good. You know what I mean? Would you accept a deviation? So back in the day when I was heavy training, I wrote a deviation from a Command PT chick where I didn't go to Command PT, and I told them what my goals were. I think the beauty in it is I hit those goals. Like it wasn't no issue there, right? But would you take that from a seller? Like, hey, I don't want to go to Command PT. Instead, I want to do this. You could put me through the ringer. I'm gonna prove to you that I can do that. Like, how would you approach something like that if it came across your desk?
Probably not, quite honestly. And especially right now, the reason that we're instituting Command PT at the schoolhouse, one is to increase all of our personal level of fitness. But two, we are a training schoolhouse, right? Mm-hmm. Those recruiters need to leave Noru understanding how to run a DEP PT. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that's part of their training. And that's what I owe to them. And the other part of it is just getting out there and the culture of fitness part, working out together as a team just makes us all better. So I think it would have to be a very rare scenario that I would say yes to, because again, I'm leading from the front, right? And I could make the very same excuse, but I don't. It's important to me to be out there. And so I would hope and I would ask that my team feels the same way.
Okay. My next question. So I sworn off caffeine about a year and a half ago now. I think I haven't drank caffeine in a while.
I didn't know that, yo.
For real?
Yeah, you haven't had no coffee?
No tea? I don't drink coffee, none of that. So I recently started drinking tea, but there's no caffeine in it. Okay. But I heard you, Lacey, talk about this pre-workout. I think it's called Flight.
Fight.
Fight.
Yes,
it's called Fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think strawberry is your favorite, right?
That's right. I'm team strawberry.
And you also said it don't give you that tingle.
Yeah.
Right. And so I want to ask you, because I'm thinking about pre-workout again, and I'm thinking about caffeine. Right now I do like a GNC Red Pack non-stem, right? So it's something in there, but it's not caffeine. And I just wanted your thoughts on that Fight. I heard you say some good stuff about it.
Yeah, so that was introduced to me by a fitness influencer in Nashville, Danny D. She just
you did
does
the podcast with, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did her podcast
No
and tried both of the flavors. I love the strawberry one. They're both great. But no, there's no beta alanine in it. So a lot of people really like that pump and that tingle right before they go to the gym. That's just not for me.
Yeah.
And her product doesn't have that in there. It kind of gives you just that kind of clean caffeine energy. And it's pretty low dose caffeine, I mean, relatively speaking. So yeah, I would highly recommend it if you're looking for something like that.
Okay, I was looking for it. I couldn't find it, but I'll see what I can do about it.
Hey, I had a question about some
I'll send you a link
competitions.
to it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Now I had a question about some other competitions. You ever heard of High Rocks, Lacey?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the high rock stuff on social media.
Yeah. So is that something? I don't know if Navy have a sponsorship for like some people to go pairs. Is that something you think maybe that NTAG or Navy recruiting could do as far as sponsor some people, do high rocks and compete?
Oh, heck yeah. I would love that. I think that'd be phenomenal. That's a little bit more my husband's speed. He's really big into the Spartan races, and it's more that tactical level of fitness. I think that stuff is super cool. So I have to train a little bit, I think, differently before I hit a high rocks, but I love the look of them. And I think that'd be perfect for the Navy brand, especially like the Warrior Challenge, Spec Ops community to go out and represent. I think that'd be super cool.
Does the Navy have a bodybuilding sub community? I see it's a couple. So shout out to Lieutenant Commander James Ball, who was on our podcast before. But is it a sub community there? Do y'all got like a little family thing going?
I'm trying to create it. I'm trying to carve it out.
Yeah, I know quite a few people.
There.
Yeah, quite a few people that competed. It'd be cool. Just don't have like a hidden Facebook group, man. Those things get things get nasty. I heard you say before, just keep showing up. And you actually alluded to it a couple times already. Just keep showing up and working hard every single day, and only goodness is going to come. And you spoke on that. You were talking about fitness, of course. But I know, and I'm sure you feel like it's the same about every single thing. Like, I feel like that's what it is with podcasting. That's what it is with leadership. That's what it is with anything you do. I just think that was powerful.
Yeah. And I think, again, you kind of bring it back to what it is y'all do. It's, you talked about it on a podcast you recently did, Dama, but it's building that community, right? I think when you invest in something with your whole heart and you show up every single day authentically in that space, that community is just going to naturally, come of that and be created. And I think that's just so powerful.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So now, at some point in DC, right? At some point in DC, Lacey Popson, right, meets Derek Vestal, right?
Yes.
What's the story there?
So we met in DC. Derek and I did a little bit later in life. He was on active duty when I met him. He's now retired after 25 years. Yeah. Very similar career trajectory to me, although we didn't know each other back in the day. But he was a surface warfare officer to start out, and then an HR officer as well. We met, in DC, working, in and around one another. And I was just telling somebody this story the other day. I think there's something really unique and special about, working with your spouse before they become your spouse or someone you're dating, because you get to see who they truly are and what they truly stand for and their work ethic. And, this was not the first time around for either Derek or I. This was our second marriage. And I think we very much knew what we were looking for, and to find that teammate in another person, right? Somebody who you could trust, somebody who knows is going to step up and be right by your side and work just as hard as you and give just as much as you, if not more, every single day. Mm-hmm. And that was just such a powerful connection.
Yeah, I would love to have seen my wife at work. I hear so many great things. Like, she always seemed like she's doing, like, at home, I'm like, damn, like, and now that she's a mom, I can't say that anymore. But I used to be like, damn, how could she make it without me? But I always hear like these guys. I know I see y'all making those faces. I love my wife. I love her. It's like, all of us probably thought that about our spouse before, right? Like, maybe it's just me. Who cares? But I'm like, how could she make it without me? Then like, I always hear these great things. I couldn't imagine like seeing her at work just being amazing, like just like all the great things that they always say about her. So it's kind of cool to get that serving from somebody, because that don't happen a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So he retired a couple years ago, and I know y'all had this whole plan of this whole Hawaii retirement, paddle boarding into the sunset, right? That whole thing, right? So how's life been now with you still being active and him being a retired guy?
Phenomenal. I couldn't ask for a better house husband.
Wow.
No, it's been great. He did some small business work when we were first in Nashville, and then got right into physical training. So he got his physical fitness training certification through NASM, and worked at 2 different gyms as a trainer in Nashville. And then we made the move down here to Pensacola a couple months ago. He hasn't found his forever gym yet, but he quite honestly is just such a phenomenal pillar of strength and partner to me. I couldn't do what I do without. I laugh and say he's my gym buddy, he's my meal prepper, he's my best friend, he's my biggest cheerleader, and it's so true. What I do every single day is so challenging, and I couldn't do it with the support system. Without the support system that Derek provides me.
Would y'all ever consider opening up a gym?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that as a retirement plan for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And where would that be?
That's a great question, Kobe. I don't know. Maybe Pensacola.
Really?
I think we're certainly leaving our options open to making this a long-term location for us. But no, we talked a lot about the gym, but more of a niche gym and more of kind of the recovery stuff that we were talking about before. With red light therapy getting so big and cold plungers and all that stuff, to kind of have a place you go after the gym to kind of get that second part of the workout in would be super cool. Yep.
I thought it would have been Nashville. I thought you was in love with Nashville. I was like, man, Pennsylvania native and then turned over to Nashville, I
know, but I do. I love the water. I love the beach. Being back in Pensacola, and we said it, even though again, we're just getting settled into the house here. This has felt like home as soon as we've gotten here. So
do you guys run a lot or no?
No. Derek does more running than I do. Like I said, he was really into the Spartan races for a while. Yeah. I have found with bodybuilding, again, that constant pounding on my legs does nothing for muscle building. So I do a lot of incline walking on the treadmill and a lot of stair stepper and swimming. I've always been really big into swimming. So that's a great low impact, calorie burning activity for me.
Yeah, when I was stationed out that way, I did the double bridge run. I think they have there in Pensacola, and then they actually have a 10K and a 5K annually on that base in Pensacola. So yeah, okay, cool.
That's awesome.
You talked about paddleboarding into the sunset, right? I just kind of quoted you on that.
Yes, you did.
What changed your mind?
This job. I mean, quite honestly, right? So when we moved to Nashville, so Derek has 2 adult kids from his first marriage, my stepkids, Jason and Sarah, and they were adults when we got to Nashville and were living in that area. So for us at that time, back in 2022, that was an answer to prayer, right? It was the aligning of personal and professional all in one great city. So that was great for the time that we were there. But again, they're young adults. Their lives have taken them in different places, different directions. So when they up and left Nashville and I picked up 06 and the Pensacola job, became a possibility, we said, hey, why not? Let's spend another few years at the beach, right? Twist our arms. We'll do it. And for me, it was the job that was key, right? Like I said, I had never been exposed to Navy recruiting before Nashville, but I really fell in love with it. I love getting young people excited about a career in the United States Navy. It's been so good to me. I feel like that's the least I can do is pay it forward. And coming down to Nauru at the schoolhouse allowed me to pay forward what I learned from that phenomenal team in Nashville and give it back to Recruiting Nation. So I feel really blessed and lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah. How's the experience going from not having kids to having a connection with adult children?
Amazing. Again, I couldn't have been more lucky. Derek and I met later on in life. Having kids of our own together just wasn't really in the cards for us. But having Chase and Sarah in my life has really filled a void that I didn't even know existed. Yeah. And I think the role suits me. I don't know how it would have been with little babies, but having an adult relationship, and just folks who I can be a good friend and a loving, supportive person has meant the world to me for sure.
Yeah. What lessons did you learn from your first marriage?
That I still had growing to do. I think I've always considered myself kind of an old soul, kind of set in my ways. But I also realized that the potential, like my growth mindset is real, and the potential that I have for growth and who I was when I met my first husband was not, who I was when we parted ways, and that's okay, right? I really wanted to make sure that if and when I was going to choose again, that I chose somebody who was going to support that growth mindset and whatever may come in the future.
Mm-hmm. You said fitness was the bodybuilding was on your 40-year-old bucket list. What else is on that bucket list?
Oh my gosh, this is so crazy because Derek just planned the script for me. So ever since I was really young, I've loved manatees. Manatees have been my favorite animal, and they're here in Florida. And so I've never been swimming with the manatees before. And that's literally been on my bucket list. And we're going to do it for my birthday in May. So I'm super pleased with that.
That sounds great. So, you fell a rep in a gym, right? You re-rack, you go again. How do you re-rack in leadership when failure hits hard?
Quick recovery, right? I think I'm wired to be a perfectionist and a people pleaser. And I think early on, especially in the Nashville job, like every little stumble I would make, or if I didn't say something the right way, or if I question, I would really take it hard. Mm-hmm. I would take it out. I would take it personally. I think I've learned just to recover quick, shake it off, brush it off, and get back at it and push even harder again.
Mm-hmm. All right. So coming up on transition, right? Do you feel like you're running towards something new, or are you leaving something behind?
So this transition, the transition from Nashville to Pensacola, was definitely towards something new. Mm. I was going to retire out of Nashville. I felt like I had command. I had command of, quite honestly, one of the best teams that I could have had in the Navy. And I was ending on a high note. There was, I didn't feel like I had much more to prove or accomplish. But again, when I was fortunate enough to pick up 06, and this particular job became available, I knew that it was meant for me. And, Derek and I had a conversation about this. It's, when you start navigating for orders as an 06, that's different. That's different than as an 05 or an 04. And, from now moving forward, it's going to be very strategic, every career decision after this. And I think that's what I feel, most comfortable saying out loud. And that's the trajectory that I'm moving in. I want to see where this Navy career takes me. And I wouldn't have said that, a year or 2 or 5 or 10 ago. And I think that all goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, right? It's just showing up every day, putting in the work and knowing that that outcome is going to take care of itself.
Yeah. So I got 2 more questions. But before I get to those questions, I got to ask you do you have a do better for us? You familiar with our do better segment?
Why don't you refresh my memory?
All right. So our do better segment is where we just ask somebody, what can either the Navy as an organization do better, our sailors do better, or any entity of the Navy do better, or something in just real world, real time, like just something that could be done better.
Yeah, so I am not too proud to admit that, one, being invited to come on this podcast is truly an honor and a privilege, because I truly appreciate and value what it is y'all do. And so, I tried to do my homework and I tried to give it my due diligence in preparing. And so I actually sat down with my mess this week. I'm like, what should I talk about? Like, what's on y'all's mind?
Yeah.
And we ended up having, almost an hour's worth of conversation in the mess the other day about a lot of things, right? About big Navy stuff, about Chief season, about things we can do better at the schoolhouse. And what I came up, if I could kind of, break it down into 3 different buckets of what I gleaned from all of that conversation is, today's leaders, our leaders are looking for simple, right? keep it simple, bring it back to basics, right? We've got so many apps and websites and messages and acronyms and advancement programs, and bring it back to the basics, right? Keep it simple. Let me know how to do my job and let me do it the best way that I can. And so I think there's real beauty in simplicity. So I think we can do better with just kind of bringing it back to basics. I think there's a toughness element that's missing, right? And that kind of came up as we talked about the Chiefs season. We pay a lot of lip service to warrior toughness. Are we living it? Are we acting it every single day? I think the consensus was, not always, right? And so again, that's why we're taking steps, at least in our organization, to move that needle in the right direction. So there was a toughness component to it too. I think we could do better about being tough, and that's not just physically tough, right? That's mentally tough. That's having tough conversations with one another every single day. And then finally, it's caring about one another. NORU is the command that takes in a lot of students. So you get to see what good commands who are sending their folks to us, what that looks like, and then also what the opposite of that looks like. And we get a lot of folks who don't come with the right quals or paperwork, or the command isn't taking care of them, right? And so we can do better in taking care of our sailors.
Right.
So some simplicity, toughness, and looking out and taking care of one another.
And then you got a book recommend. So we changed the name of the segment to Pick of the Week, right? Ooh. But it used to be called Book of the Week. But Pick of the Week makes our less well-read host.
Be careful.
Our least read, I'm gonna talk trash. It makes our least read host comfortable sharing their pick. So it don't necessarily got to be a book. It could be a news article, a podcast episode, something that like inspired you or moved you, whether that be for this week or throughout your career. So do you have a pick of the week for us?
Gosh, I have so many. So the book that I listen to on repeat as an audiobook is Relentless by Tim Grover. And Tim Grover was Jordan's, one of his personal coaches. And it is just about being relentless, right? Having that hunger inside you and showing up and just getting after it each and every day. The book that I would always recommend before that was Quiet by Susan Cain, because it talked about what it meant to be an introvert. And I feel like both of those books reaffirmed to me exactly who I was. Quiet made me feel like it's okay to be, more reserved, to be a little bit more introspective, to charge your battery in solitude. And Relentless showed me that it's okay to have that hunger and to be a little bit crazy in your pursuit of excellence. And those two books have shaped and defined, who I am on kind of both ends of the spectrum.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Before I ask these last two questions, I got to personally thank you because we always need a purge episode. This is a pretty clean episode, right? So it's a purge. I have not used one word of profanity at all. I know, I know what can happen, So you call it a purge episode. So my I got two more questions. I don't know if Aaron or Kobe got anything.
When you told me you had 64 questions, I didn't believe you, but I think you legitimately had 64 questions.
And I took a couple
the research is deep. It comes.
It is so impressive, the level of research.
So we going back, family back in Wyoming. When they look at you now, captain, athlete, bodybuilder, what do you think they see?
Oh my gosh, I hope they see the same person that I was when I was, back in Pennsylvania as a little girl. I think that same spirit, that genuine nature, that hard work ethic, that understanding that belief that I was made for more. I hope all of those components are still within me and resonate with others.
Mm-hmm. I heard you say, I have two more questions, I guess, maybe. I heard you say you wanted more, right? I heard you say that before. And my question for you, and this is to the extent of what you could share, because I know a lot of captains, Navy stuff, y'all don't like sharing that type of stuff as far as what's next. But personally, in your bodybuilding career and stuff like that, thinking 5-year plan or whatever we thinking, but what is your more?
Yeah. And again, I finally feel comfortable saying all this out loud, right? I want to push both as far as I can possibly take them. To the point where I'm still making an impact, right? Am I gunning for that pro card as a bodybuilder? You better believe it. Mm-hmm. And that might take me another season. That might take me another decade. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep after it. Because that's super important to me, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And same with my Navy career. The HR community only makes one flag officer. I don't know if that's meant to be me, but I'm going to continue to take the jobs and do the work and be the leader that will position me for success in my community and in the Navy.
Okay. Hey, y'all got anything?
Yeah, Aaron, go first.
All right. Lacey, in the gym, we got one song, the one go-to song to get you do your best workout. What is your one go-to song on repeat that put you in that flow state? Artist and song, what is it?
Thunderstruck.
Oh my God.
I will not lie. I'm sure y'all didn't see it, but the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders Netflix series, I was obsessed with that show. And so that's ever since then, I listen to it every single morning to get myself pumped up for the gym. It's so embarrassing, but here we go.
In the mood with it too.
Hey, she owned it. Hey, that's all I got though.
So are you a Philly fan or are you
I've been wanting to ask that question forever.
Yeah.
So divided loyalties. To be fair, I've never really picked an NFL team. I know that's a disappointing answer. Half of my family was for Pittsburgh and half was for Philly.
Right there on that line.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to own the Cowboys because of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, but I don't really think I could do that. So go
Eagles. We're doing so good. Now you talking about cursing.
I know, Pookie, you weren't supposed to ask me the hard question.
Oh my God, that's a hard question.
It was certainly one I didn't have a good answer for.
Nah, so my last question, and it's all seriousness. You keep you've said it a few times now, and I think this is more important for the women that are in service that hear this podcast. We had one of our good sisters on. Candace a few months back, and just hearing the women leadership. One of the comments or statements that you've made a few times now is, "I finally feel comfortable." Where does that come from, and why do you feel like after 20 years in your Navy career, you finally feel comfortable?
Such a great question, and strengths, right? So it's why I finally did feel comfortable. For a while, for the first few years, I did all my bodybuilding stuff. It was very personal to me, right? I didn't want to put that part of me out there because it was super vulnerable. And a lot of people don't understand the sport or the optics of the sport, right? And so, but who the gym has helped me become. So getting strong, standing up on a stage, being seen, again, has truly helped, me continue to grow as a leader. And all I can do is share that message forward, right? And do it by example.
Right.
And so it's being strong, it's being seen, and it's showing all my sailors, women or men, that it's possible to do both, to do it all, and to be the very best version of yourself every single day.
Respect.
Yeah. Well, I hope your Chiefs, man, I hope they are listening. I know they got a lot going on today. The day that this episode come out, they got a lot going on. But I hope that they are listening, and I hope they could take a lot away from this. And I want to tell you personally that you embody what I believe Permission to Speak Freely podcast has always stood for, especially what I stand for. And that's the fact that as sailors, we are way more dynamic than just only who we are in uniform. And as a matter of fact, who we are when we take the uniform off adds a whole lot of value to who we are when we put the uniform on. And it's not a different person. It's the same exact person. And you embody that. So thanks for joining us. Hopefully we had a great time. We know we kept you up a little bit later than normal. We appreciate it, man. And I can't wait till the fleet get to listen to this episode.
No doubt.
Truly appreciate the opportunity. And I know I've said it, but I'll say it again. Thank you for all that y'all do. You have truly raised the bar in terms of the conversation that our Navy is having. And you should be truly proud of the work that you've done and that you will continue to do. So thank you.
Respect.
Got to do applause to get out of here. I'm always late with my applause. I'm always late with my applause. A little air. Come on in and get up out of here, man.